Welcome to the very first episode of She Journeys with Him. I'm so excited to share this space with you where we're going to be talking about faith, purpose, and our journey with Jesus. This being our first episode, I thought it would be very fitting for me to share my own personal testimony, how She Journeys with Him started, my struggles, the ups and downs, and how God planted this dream for She Journeys with Him. And I can't believe how many people we are reaching today on that little platform on Instagram. I cannot believe it. But honestly, my heart for this space is that you would really encounter the love of Jesus and that we would walk together and you would grow in your faith, in your identity, in just who you are as a daughter and a son of God, and we would journey together. And so, honestly, I really have to go back to just the really beginnings of my faith. I want to bring you into a very pivotal time of my life, a very challenging time of my life that really propelled me to who I am today, to where I am today, and how She Journeys with Him was birthed. We all know that there is purpose in our pain, and God wastes nothing. And that was a journey that I had to walk in. And during this time, I'm going to share a personal testimony. And it was about my son, who he was 3 months old. And it was this perfect evening where, I have two kids. My kids were sound asleep. And to the natural eye, everything just seemed so normal. But in the spirit realm, like, oh boy, like if in the spirit realm, there was a war. And this is the first time that I had experienced the Lord this way. But I heard the Lord audibly speak, wake up and pray on your kids. And immediately it was like this gentle, but yet firm voice. But I immediately sat up and I hit my husband, I hit my husband and I said, babe, we need to wake up and pray on the kids. And so this was like in the middle of the night, 3 a.m. Kids are sound asleep. And so we woke up, we started praying and praying, it felt for hours. We were praying for hours. And for me, how I would be able to describe this is as if I was standing with the angels and we were just battling this out in the spirit realm, praying and praying. And again, the natural eye, everything was peaceful. And so we prayed, finally felt peace, and we went to sleep. The next morning, I went in to change my son's diaper, and it was filled with blood. Rushed to the hospital, and that's when the doctors were trying to find out what was going on, what was happening, trying to get his blood work in. And finally, they told us that he had a ITP, which is a blood disorder. And it was very, very hard, very painful moment for us, very scary moment for us. And I remember there was a time in the hallway where I was holding my son, and everything just became real. You could see the fear in the doctor's eyes, and you could just feel the uncertainty of that. What they knew what they were doing, but they didn't know what they were doing. They didn't know what the outcome is, and you could see how real the situation was. And a moment where I just had a few seconds alone with my son, holding him in my arms, and I felt how real the Lord is. I felt how real the Lord is. And I just took this time and I dedicated him to the Lord. And I said, God, he's not mine. He's not mine to keep, but he is yours. And I dedicated him to God. And I said, if you want him, you could take him. And it was I'm getting emotional right now, but it was a very, very hard time of my life that I had to surrender. And so they took him behind the doors, and they put a PICC line in, and they started giving him treatments. And it was a journey of a year and a half walking this out. and trying to figure out what was going on. And every single time I would rise up to pray, or I would ask my friends, let's fast and pray and ask the Lord, and He would tell me, He is healed. Go to bed. Or He is healed. I woke you up the night before. He is healed. And again, then my natural eye would not see that. The results, the blood work would come back, and everything would be just negative, and we wouldn't see what the Lord was speaking, but we had to believe that what He said was true and it was done. And, we walk by faith, not by sight. And I really had to hold on to the words of the Lord's, the prayers that I had prayed and what He had spoken us as a promise, and walk that out. And during that time, it really shifted me. It grew me in my faith. It challenged me in so many ways. And I started walking in boldness. Like, what would it look like if I really believed that what He said was true? What would it look like? How would I act? How would I speak? How would my day to day be? Because I was drenched in worry. How would I feel and think and say? And so I started gathering my friends from my community, my Bible study girls. And I said, you know what? Every time I go have a doctor's visit, let's go and start praying on people. Let's go preach the gospel. Let's go prophesy on people in the elevators. And that's what we started to do. I said, well, God, God, you have healed him. And therefore, I'm going to walk in the authority of who I am and who you are. And I'm going to I'm going to go into that hospital. And we were at the hematology center, where there's plenty of kids who are struggling with blood disorders and cancers and all of those things. And we would go and we would pray for them. We would have words of knowledge, and we would try to encourage the mothers and the parents. And it became a mission, and it became a place where I trusted the Lord. It became a place where I was holding Jesus's hand every single day and every single moment, and trusting Him, knowing that He has everything in the palm of His hand. He had my son in the palm of His hand. And long story short, my son got fully healed at the end. They had done the last blood draw, and everything just came back to normal. Just suddenly, everything came back to normal. And the doctors discharged him. They said, we haven't seen such a drastic, complete change. And they're like, things like this happen. We don't really have a reason, why or how, they called it a miracle. And so holding on to that miracle, I remember the day I went home, my son being discharged, and I sat at the edge of my bed looking at the paper. And suddenly I felt just the wonder of God. I felt how I had boxed my life within the four walls of the perfect life that I was trying to create, the perfect home that I was trying to create, with the perfect wall color matching my couch and all those things I was trying to create. I felt the more of God. I felt that God was calling me to just the wonder of who He is. And it changed. Everything changed in that moment. Everything changed in that moment, where I started leaning in and wanting to know more of Him, wanting to know more of this amazing, wonderful God, and wanting to have deep relationship with Him, which propelled me to, propelled our family to sell our home, say goodbye to everybody, and just journey out from changing cities and pursuing just different things that we would never pursue before. And it has completely changed me, completely changed my family altogether. And so even with knowing that, like, I want to encourage you that there is more to what you see. There is more to what you know. There is more to what you hear. There is always more with God. And one of the things that I want this space to be is that for you to know that is at reach for you, that the kingdom of God is at hand and there's just so much more for you to experience. I want this space to be a place where you could come and feel the Lord and know that the Lord is over your life in every single season that you're in. And maybe you're just in that same season as I was going through with my son, or maybe your season looks a little bit different, but I want you to know that there is more and there's purpose in your pain. There is purpose, and God doesn't lose, he doesn't waste anything in any season. And so with that deep hunger and burning for the Lord, I was in this season of just, having the more of God, stepping and recognizing that, wow, like he is Lord. And I challenged myself to go in deeper. I told myself, you know what? I'm going to put myself in this little room, my bedroom, and I'm just going to seek his face. I'm going to seek him more, and I'm going to ask him, God, I just want more of you, and go into prayer and worship. And I mean, I just wanted to, I just out of hunger, I just wanted more of the Lord. And so I'm not saying you need to do this, but this is something that I felt I needed to do. And so I closed my door, had my Bible, and I said, I'm going to spend time with the Lord for 4 hours. I don't care what it looks like. I'm going to spend time with the Lord for 4 hours. And I wanted to see what would come out of it. And I felt compelled to do this. And so I'm like, I didn't know how to start. I put in the worship music on. I'm like, okay, I'm worshiping the Lord. I open my Bible, start reading verses and start reading, meditating on scripture. And it was honestly the most beautiful thing, because it doesn't take long for the Lord to show up. Like he is near all the time, and it doesn't take long for him to show up. And so he showed up. And I haven't experienced this before, but I went into this vision. It was almost like vivid vision, not, I didn't fall asleep, but I was awake, but I started seeing this vision. And in this vision, I saw this girl. And this girl she is searching for truth. She's searching for freedom. She's searching for more. And she's walking down the streets and she sees this postcard, stuck on one of the walls. And she looks at it. It says, "Adventure. Are you looking for an adventure? Will you say yes?" And so she grabs all the information. She's like, "Yes, I'm going to go on this adventure. Like, this seems really exciting. This is exactly what my heart needs." She goes home and she starts packing for it. And it's one of these old school luggages, the ones with the hardcover. It's this old school luggages. She opens the old school luggage and she's like, "You know what? I'm going to start packing." And so she packs, insecurity in, and she packs fear in, and she packs um pain in, and she's packing all these things that it was never meant for her to carry, but these are necessities for her. She's packing trauma in there, and guilt in there, and she's packing shame in there. And she turns around, she has a teeny tiny joy, and she wants to pack teeny tiny joy, and she realizes that there is no room for her to pack teeny tiny joy. She goes back and she's like, "Oh, fun." And she wants to pack fun, and there is no space for fun. And so she's like, "You know what? I don't really need those. Those are not necessities." She closes her luggage, it like clicks in the old school luggages. She holds the handle, she looks up, and she sees Jesus at the door. And he extends his hand and he's like, "Are you ready to take this journey?" And so as soon as she holds Jesus's hand, she steps outside the door and she finds herself outside in nature. And she's facing this big mountain in front of her. And Jesus is like, "Are you ready to climb the mountain?" And she says yes. So they go on this journey holding hands up the mountain, and she's dragging this suitcase up. Now she's thinking, wow, this suitcase is really heavy, but she's dragging it because these are necessities for her. She needs this. She can't live without them. And she's dragging the suitcase up. And then they come to a point where the sun is setting, and they built this campfire. There's this little tent, and Jesus has a moment with her where he starts talking to her and speaking into her who she is, about how much he loves her and how much he means she means to him. And they have this beautiful conversation where at one point she gets tired and she falls asleep. And the next day it starts all over. She grabs her suitcase, they continue up the mountain, and this happens 3 times for 3 days. They sit at the campfire, sun sets, he speaks into her. And on the third morning, she rises up and he's like, "Are you ready?" She says yes again, holds his hand, starts walking, and they reach at the top of the mountain. And she realizes that she had left her luggage at the last campsite. And suddenly, freedom sets on her, and she feels breakthrough, and she feels joy, and she feels fun, and she realizes she's at the top of the mountain where she sees the heavens view, and she sees how God sees things, and everything just shifts. And all of a sudden she's wearing this beautiful dress, flowery, twirling with Jesus and dancing on top of the mountains. Now this is funny because I'm not one who loves camping or, maybe glamping or maybe not, but I just love how Jesus gives me this image, and they're on top and she just feels so herself and so free. She feels so free. And then I heard the audible voice of God saying, "That is you. And I want you to take other women through that journey too." And that's how She Journeys with Him started. It really started out of the desire for God's heart for His daughters to experience the fullness of who He is, to experience the fullness of freedom and joy and power and passion and everything He has for His daughters. And so I want this space, again, to be a space where you journey with the Lord, that it would bring you closer to Him. It would propel you to your destiny. It will propel you to your design, how God has created you to be. This would be a space that you would be equipped, that you would be empowered, and that you would feel like you're not alone walking this journey. So if you're listening today and you feel like you're carrying a heavy burden, I want you to know that the Lord sees you, He knows you, He loves you, and nothing goes to vain. Like He knows your season, and there's healing on the other side. Where there is freedom, there's healing. And so the Lord is with you every single step of the way. You may not understand it fully now, but you will. And so this is an encouragement for you to hold on to faith, to hold on His promises. Everything He says is true and it is alive. His words are active in your life. And so believe it today, believe it for yourself, and even over your family. Believe it over your families. His promises are yes and amen over you. So I hope this first episode has encouraged you to journey with Jesus in whatever season that you're in. And I'm excited to bring you into all the other episodes that we're planning on. And we are just so excited to equip you, empower you, and inspire you on your journey with Him.